How are you doing today?
I'm all right. I'm a little tired. I've been shooting incessantly and then at the same time prepping for another project and then interviews and everything. Because I sort of juggle a lot of hats, juggle a lot of roles. So of a director, of an actor, and also of a producer. So yeah, sometimes it gets little strenuous like today, but then I guess that's part of the fun.
Right. And I was going to ask you, that was going to be my first question. Being an actor, director, and producer involved in one project, what is the most challenging part? Because as a director, you want to be watching what's happening on screen, but if you're acting in front of the camera, you can't do that necessarily. So what's the most challenging part of balancing those three hats?
Oh, no, I don't think that's a big challenge, really. Well, it
Hmm.
does become a challenge when, as an actor, you're playing something that is really beyond your comfort zone. As
Okay.
long as, as an actor, you are pretty much within your comfort zone. You really know what is up your sleeve, what is up your alley, what are the cards you're going to be playing. Especially if you're doing the job for a reasonably long time, then you know what you're going to be doing. But so with the film like Tiki Taka, it does get a little challenging because the part that I play in Tiki Taka as an actor, that is not really something that is very much in my comfort zone, and also not something that the audience is actually used to seeing me in. So yeah, that these are the times where it gets a little too stressful to act in such a part uh, as well as direct it. But I think the one bad guy from amongst these three entities, from these three cells of mine, or of these three cells of an individual, would be, I think the worst guy is the producer.
I was going to say the producer.
Yeah,
Why is that?
he's not a nice man. He's not a nice man.
Okay.
He's not a nice man because he is pretty much like that one aunt in the family who really turns out to be the bad one, to be the bad apple, because on hindsight, that person has to really take care of everybody's well-being, and that's the reason that you know the producer is the aunt, turns out to be the aunt who has to scold everyone and not let them go out after a certain point of time in the evening, not letting them going out and play. She's the one who puts all the restrictions and everything, but that's the producer's job. Yeah.
Hmm. You talked about Tiki Taka and one of the most challenging parts being that it was out of your comfort zone. I find that actors do really well if they're acting in a role that is outside of their comfort zone, so long as they find something to connect with. I mean, that's my perception. Was that what you did for yourself? How did you overcome that challenge? Did you find a piece that you connected with, a particular narrative, or did you build a backstory? How did that happen for you?
This is one of the most, um, I don't know, apt and accurate observations that I've ever come across, actually. Really, trust me. Yeah, because I think there, but yeah, when I'm talking about going beyond my comfort zone as an actor, um, if what I play in Tiki Taka would be something else with which I would not relate at all, then it didn't really matter whether it's in my comfort zone or outside my comfort zone. It just wouldn't have interested me. Uh, yeah, you need to be excited about what you're doing. You need to be enthused about it, and also you need to have that certain element of empathy for that part that you're playing to be able to take up that challenge. So yeah, I think for me Raju is somebody who is very different from what I am in my personal life, but at the same time Raju is also someone who I interact, like a lot of people like that, I interact on a regular basis on the sets, my makeup artist, the driver who takes me to the shoot, and the way that person talks. And when we have a casual chit chat about where he is from, how many members are there in his family, is if he's married, how does he get by?
Hmm.
And so yeah, and the kind of sort of this very almost philosophical nonchalance with which they uh, they approach very, very big existential problems in life. I think that lies at the core of Raju. That he's probably an orphan. He doesn't know whose parents are, and he is a swindler of sorts. He's not the most straight guys in the world. He's a sort of a wicked person in a way. But then he has this very objective view on the world that few things are good, few things are bad. I would actually cross the lines of becoming proper and might just tread onto the bad side to do something good, something which is for greater good, because he has very clear visions about what is good and what is bad. I think that is what made me relate to Raju so much.
Did you judge him initially? Because I think that if you judge him initially and then you sort of get into the skin of the character, you start to realize that there is much more in common sometimes.
Then what is there to get pissed with? Yes. Yeah, that's really a very, very, wow, I'm really happy that we're having this conversation actually. So I think judging a particular part, a particular character is the best way to enter that character. Firstly, you have to just judge that person. Like you have to call him or her names. You have to just, while talking to yourself, you have to really dislike him or her, I think, or, the worst way of going about a part, I think, as an actor is to think whether this guy or whether this woman is going to actually come across as somebody very nice and very positive to people, which immediately makes that part rather boring. I think the first impression, that the way I like to think of it is like, how bad can this guy get? How nasty can this guy get? Like, on a very bad day, would he commit a murder? Let's start from there and then see how this character can be redeemed. Yeah, I think that's the reverse is the ideal way of approaching a part. It's very personal opinion, but yeah.
As a director, though, do you find that you have to find the good, or is that the same process? Because as an actor, I could see why you would want to judge the character to try to get into the skin of the character, perhaps. But is that the same approach as a director? Because you have different characters then that you have to look at, and you have to.
That kind of, that changes from one director to the other. It depends on the general worldview of the person making the film. I think. So someone like me, I think, I would, in the end, unless I'm telling a very dark story about really people who do bad things without caring much for validation or without caring much for justification for their deeds, unless I'm making something like that, otherwise I think I really like to kind of, finally have my faith in the fact that human beings can be redeemed. Having my faith in the idea of redemption. Yeah. It's a little bit of a Christian thought, but that's not what I mean.
When you take a step back and look at the film, look at the project in an objective light, and I don't know if you can maintain objectivity necessarily when you're so close to the project and you have different roles that you're playing. But I find that as a producer, you have to remain somewhat objective. But as a director, do you take a step back and do you think to yourself, there's another character in this project that in front of the camera that I'm really intrigued by? Who was that for you besides your own?
Oh, okay. For this particular film, I think it would be, the part played by Saswata Chatterjee called PK, the man who has the pan in his mouth. Because I really kind of, I think he is weird to a different level. I think
Okay.
it's a different level quirky. So yeah, that kind of, he intrigues me quite a bit. And speaking about objectivity, I think I like being very objective about what I do in the sense, especially as an actor and a producer. I have to admit that as a director, it sometimes gets a tad difficult to remain very objective. And that is also the reason why I really like, once I write something, I like forgetting it for about a good 3-4 months and then going back and revisiting it, because when you're writing something, you really feel that you are probably, David Kep or the best writer in the world. So, but then you know, once you just set it aside, put it aside, and just forget it for a couple of months, and then you go back to it, then that is when you actually start finding out the flaws in it, start finding out where there was a bit of indulgence that has happened. And I think it's a nice way of approaching it. And after having made the film, what happens as a director, you have to get busy in completing the film. Uh, so the time to revisit the film, more often than not, you cannot really afford that luxury. That becomes sort of a luxury to, once you shoot the film, make a rough edit and just, leave it be, let it be, and then revisit it after 6 months to see where did we go wrong, and then maybe shoot a few scenes, reshoot a few scenes. I'm sure people in Hollywood and other industries do it, but for us, that is too much of a luxury to afford. So yeah, so I think that way of objectivity as a director is limited. But yeah, as a producer, because you are constantly trying to sell this film to a lot of people,
Right.
you come across so many feedbacks, you come across so many, reactions to your product, that you come to understand a very generic, very neutral perspective. You understand what are the things which are not so good about your product. You also come to understand what are the things which are absolutely fascinating about your film. So I think the producer is, yes, you're right, the most objective entity on a film project.
Taking a step back, I know that you're short on time, but taking a step back, do you think that there is a difference between your favorite moment that you shot versus the favorite moment that is on screen now that's been depicted?
Yeah, totally.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, there are. There's a scene in the film where these two men, they sit on the cornice of the roof, and with the Howrah Bridge in the backdrop, and they're talking about their childhood and everything. And on a script level, and even while we were shooting, we really thought that that's really the most touching part of the whole film. And where they speak in different languages, but they both of them are sort of talking about the same realities, only in their respective lives. But yeah, when we had the dub rough edit and I was watching it with reference music, and I realized, no, this is not my favorite moment in the film. My favorite moment in the film is not even an emotional moment. It's an out and out, ticklingly funny moment when Raju, along with Bonnie, they go to rescue Khelechi from PK, and they enter the house as a production manager and a film director, and the conversation that happens with PK's henchman called Poncha, and the way they talk, and these little things that the whole timing, the way Kanchon, the actor, and myself, the way we timed ourselves, and the way we did it, the way I made the shot divisions, the way we executed the whole thing, the whole interplay of all these elements, the whole mise en scene, everything. I think it's just that I find like it's almost like a nice music piece that every chord, every note is like playing at the right time and everything. So yeah, I think that's my favorite scene.
Well, timing is everything in a film like Tiki Taka. So if that works for you as a viewer, I think that's the most rewarding part of it. Then, thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you.
Questions I really enjoyed. Thank you.
And take care and all the very best with.
Whereabouts are you now? Actually,
I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Yeah. Well, good luck and stay safe.
Yes, you as well. Take care.